Hey, everybody. Hey, welcome to Martinis with Scott, our daily touch base on this beautiful Wednesday. Hope you're hump day, right? Hope you're having a great week. Wearing my headphones today. I hope the sound comes through okay, but I've got cleaners and work people in the place, and I just had to unplug the vacuum. I have strategically placed my podcast studio right beside the central vacuum cleaner system. So that causes us problems. Maybe I'll have the workmen work on that issue for me. Hey, are you interested in statistics and how they are manipulated or used for persuasion? Excuse me. Do you understand the difference between or the causation versus correlation and how that works? So for example, let's say you've got thing A, and you're looking to see whether that relates to or causes thing B. So you do a study and you say, look at that. Every time I have A, I've got B. That's a statistically valid result. I've got A, and then I found B every time I had an A. Does that tell you that A caused B? It may not tell you that. It might tell you that, but it might not. It might tell you that B caused A, but you weren't studying that. You were studying whether A caused B. So you may have your causation reversed, or it may just be a correlation. What does that mean? It may mean that you've got C, and C causes both A and B. So you were looking for A, you found B together. Maybe they were both caused by something you haven't even studied. And this is how, a simple example of how stats can be statistically true and very persuasive, but completely misunderstood. I just don't believe any persuasive argument at all that comes out of statistics until I've had a chance to think about it and considered whether the causation is going the right way, considered whether causation versus correlation has been dealt with. It's been an interest of mine forever, just because I'm the type of person that in university, when I got to take my elective, which could have been basket weaving like everybody else, I chose to take advanced statistics just for the fun of it. I know, kind of weird, right? So let's look at an example. And at the risk of talking about COVID, because it'll be misinterpreted as politics, and every time I come anywhere close to politics, although I try not to express a view, I get a bunch of thumbs down. And those are the only times on Martinis with Scott I get thumbs down. But at the risk of having that happen, if you listen to the news or read posts or social media about, from the anti-masking side of the mask debate and the mask resistance, particularly in the U.S., what is one of their key arguments? One of their key arguments, they have several, but one of them is that look at areas. There's many areas that have really strict mask use regulation, really strict or high mask use adoption in the public, yet those places where people are wearing masks all over the place are still a hot spot for COVID. Okay, so you got high use of masks, yet it's still a hot spot for COVID, statistically valid. Okay, a statistically valid claim. Therefore, the argument goes, masks do not prevent COVID. Okay, masks don't work. That is the argument, not my argument. Don't give me a thumbs down for that. I'm explaining to you statistics and how they're used in persuasion. You got an area with heavy mask use, yet it's a COVID hotspot. Masks don't work. Is that true? Is that a possibility? Sure, it's a possibility. Is it also a possibility that the causation is reversed? Maybe it became a hotspot, this area, for COVID. As a result, government officials freaked out, population is nervous, and all of a sudden you have very strict regulations for masks and very strict regulation and very high adoption level for masks to protect against the COVID risk and the fear of a COVID risk. Which one came first, the chicken and the egg? Which came first? And you get to make your judgment, but it's statistically valid in both arguments, right? They are correlated from the stats that I've seen. In a hotspot, you have lots of masks. Where you have lots of masks, you probably have a hotspot. Okay, those are correlated, but don't bet the farm on which one is the causation and which one is the result. Here's another example of that, because on Martinis with Scott, we talk about business. We talk about winning momentum in life and in business. I've been hearing a lot, and I've been hearing this forever, for 30 years that I've been paying attention. If you listen to any advice from any successful businessman, from billionaires, I've heard it recently from Elon Musk, you hear it from Jeff Bezos, you look at all of these billionaires and what do they tell? What is the most important rule of success? The most important rule of success: don't give up. Just don't give up. Don't give up. You need to keep going. You can't give up. The number one rule of success, as brought to you by the billionaires: don't quit. Cause and correlation. Which way does the cause go? Have you ever seen the interview with the entrepreneur who never gave up, never made it, and died poor and destitute and lonely? Have you seen that interview? Because I don't think there's a lot of those interviews out there. I've never seen one. Okay. But do you think, if you had to, on one hand, add up the successful entrepreneurial billionaires, and on the other hand, account for the entrepreneurs that never made it, they didn't give up, but they never made it, they died lonely and broke, how many more fingers would you have? Would it be on your left or your right? I know in the camera this looks backwards to me. I'm willing to bet, with zero evidence whatsoever, I'm willing to bet there's a hell of a lot more failed entrepreneurs who didn't give up than there are billionaires who were successful as entrepreneurs because they didn't give up. Okay, so A, B, which comes first? Or is it C? Is it C that created both A and B? So do you think that statistically, as I said, there's more failures than business billionaires? Do you think the billionaires, do you think not giving up is the critical ingredient for success? Or do you think, here's another possibility with the same set of statistics, that everybody, including the failed entrepreneurs and the successful entrepreneurs who turn into billionaires, everybody just completely the amount of time that it takes to get from here to there? Okay, that the journey itself between starting your entrepreneurial business and becoming a billionaire, starting your entrepreneurial business and failing and going into bankruptcy or dying lonely and destitute, the journey is a lot longer than you think it's going to be, right? Maybe that is a more logical explanation for why the successful entrepreneurs say never give up, is they didn't think it was going to take them that long. So they didn't give up. They kept going and they made it, but they didn't make it. Potentially, they didn't make it because of not giving up. They were going to make it anyways. It just took longer than they thought. Something to think about. I years ago met a guy who became a client of mine. He ran a tech company. He turned into a good friend. I don't want to drop any names on this one, but when I met him, he was doing about $4 million in revenue, and he was not making any money. Okay, so they had some subscription service that came along with their offering. They had an interesting technology for back in the day. This is a long, long time ago. And he was doing about $4 million, very sophisticated MBA type guy, $4 million revenue and making no money. And he was about 40 years old. We worked with him. I worked with him, got him through a restructuring, got him some financing. He went on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. We became friends. I haven't talked to him in quite a while, but love the guy. He's a great guy. Okay. Close to 20 years later, which is still not today, because this was, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. 20 years after I first met him, and maybe it's not exactly 20, maybe it was 17 years, 18 years, but after I first met him, close to 20 years, he was doing $4 million in revenue and not making any money. So when I met him, he was doing $4 million in revenue, not making any money, got him out of some trouble he was in, way he went about his business. 20 years later, exact same situation. Never created equity value, paid himself a little salary along the way, so he was able to live and, wear proper suits and things like that, which was important back in the day. Not so much for you techie entrepreneurs right now. So, he lived and had a career. But over those 20 years, from the age of, say, 40 to late 50s, early 60s, he created zero equity value. What do you think is the most important 20 years of your value creation business life? Do you think it's from 20 to 40? Or do you think it's 40 to 60? Or do you think it's 60 to 80? If you had to create these 20 years, obviously in your younger years, 20s, 30s to some extent, this is when you're getting your footing. You're experiencing failure, you're learning, you're having your creative ideas. You should be wise and you should be knocking it out of the park when you're 40s, when you hit your 40s. And in this day and age, you can go right through to your 60s. I mean, I plan to go much longer than that. I'm not far off from that age right now myself. I feel like I got another 20 years at least of doing what I'm doing. But the point being, that's your sweet spot, right? If you think about your career, your business, the way you should be making your big bucks is from unless you got a home run in your 20s or something, which is unusual. But in the normal course, it should be from your 40s to 60s. Yet this fellow spent it really just spinning his wheels and ending up in the same place when he was 60 as he was when he was 40. All right. So what is Einstein's definition of insanity? I've never known if this is true, if he actually said this, but it's a good meme, right? It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. I see that in troubled companies all the time. Troubled companies doing the same thing that they've been doing forever is not working for them. And they think, well, this time, I don't want to give up. I don't want to give up. This time it's going to work for me. Sometimes you just need to stop. You just need to stop and you need to try something different. You could stop and try something different within the same company, right? You don't have to leave your mission. You don't have to leave your purpose. You can stop doing this specific way and try doing this some other specific way and see if that works. Or you could just get another job, right? These are possibilities, and not giving up, okay, may not be the right answer. I'm just calling bullshit on the cause and effect, on the causation and the correlation of this never give up piece of advice. So I'm going to do Martins with Scott. That'll be released tomorrow. I think I'm shooting it this afternoon, the 1 hour show. I've released at 4 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. I'm going to talk about accountability. I'm going to talk about accountability in your life, responsibility in your life, responsibility and accountability in your business. And I'm going to argue that a part of what creates, you don't have to just embrace it. You don't have to just accept failure and limitation, but what creates opportunities and success are failure and limitations. They actually create the opportunities and the possibilities, okay? And so you have to do more than just embrace failure and limitations. You have to accept them as the causation of opportunity and success. But with limitations, with failure comes suffering. How can you deal with the suffering? How can you deal with the failure every single day and the hits that you take? You hear coaches, entrepreneurs talk about this all the time. Well, the way to deal with that is to have a purpose, to have an aim, to have a direction. Oh, damn, I'm out of time here. To have a direction, and the direction, the aim that you're heading in, to you personally, in your gut, needs to be more important than the pain you're suffering to get there. It needs to outweigh the pain that you're suffering to get there. And this is inside you, okay? You need to find the answer to that inside you. And the minute you wake up and you say, you know what? The pain and the hits that I'm taking on this aren't worth it, all right? The direction that I'm going to is not sufficient to overcome and justify the pain that I'm taking. That might be a good time to start thinking about doing something different, doing the same thing a different way, or just doing something different entirely. But don't quit that day. It could be temporary. Here's what you do. Give yourself one last chance. Give yourself one last chance to say, okay, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to try things a little differently. I'm going to hunker down for this period of time. That could be a week, could be a month, could be a year, could be 2 years. I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to double down. I'm going to push as hard as I can go, and I'm going to see what happens. And at the end of that period that I just gave myself, I'm not happy. I'm not happy in my gut, in my intuition, that the purpose of where I'm heading is insufficient to justify the pain that I'm suffering. Move on. Do something different. Life is short. Okay, life is short. There's not about being happy. This is about being successful, taking on responsibility, taking on accountability, having a purpose that justifies the pain, and not spending the rest of your life doing something that isn't working because some billionaire told you not to give up. Okay, thanks for listening. That was Martinis with Scott. We'll see you tomorrow.